जा रे। तज दे क्रोध मद मोह निर्मल कर ले तू मन मन अनमोल रे। बोल मधुर वचन हर ले सब का तू मन मधुरस घोल रे। कर ले संतोष तज मन मिथ्या कुसन शरण प्रभु की आजा रे। पल पल जीवन जाए रे कर ले प्रभु का भजन शरण प्रभु की आजा रे। तेरे अपने कर्म जाए तेरे ही संग कर्म का मूल रे। तेरे कर्म अधम पाप में जाए नरम मन को तोल रे। माटी देखे ये तन देखे प्रभु नमन शरण प्रभु की आजा रे। बारंबार मिले ना ये मानुष जन्म शरण प्रभु की आजा रे। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We have been studying about dependent and independent happiness. And in the process of studying that, we had come to how, in this pursuit of happiness, we try to avoid every form of discomfort. The irony of life is that if you consciously take the discomfort, you will be a happy person. But if you say, I'm going to avoid discomfort, then you become a miserable person. This is a strange phenomenon of life. So we try to avoid every discomfort. See, suppose you have a fight with somebody, okay? And it's very uncomfortable to go and say, I'm sorry. So we'll avoid it. We won't do this. So what is the consequence? A festering wound in the relationship. And what's the consequence of that? It can't be a deep relationship. It can't be a long-term relationship. It cannot be a fulfilling relationship. So it's almost like whoever made the system has put a trick over there. That if you feel some kind of discomfort and you proceed with it, you're more likely to find happiness than if you feel happiness and proceed with it. It's a trick on us. Its name is Maya. Maya means it's not what it appears. So discipline sounds like a burdensome, horrible thing. Who's going to do discipline? We don't want that discomfort. And the result of that is long-term sorrow. Isn't it really strange? So when you feel the original discomfort, if you take note of it, there is some hope of finding happiness at the end of it. But nobody will believe you. It seems so stupid, right? It seems like, what do you know? See, I mean, it's very understandable if someone thinks like that. अरे मैं बोल रहा हूं that I'm enjoying this. What's your problem? How will the person believe you? It sounds impossible. And yet, that is the truth. That is the truth. And it's shown in that Chaturbhuja Vishnu. There is a voice, a conscience. One of his hands is that conch. It is the voice, it is the conscience. Tells you right from wrong, the discrimination. If you listen to it, it takes you to the lotus. The other hand, lotus. Lotus means takes you to happiness, takes you to bliss. Why lotus? Because lotus is born in the dirty water, it lives in that dirty water, and it dies in that dirty water, and yet that dirty water does not touch the lotus. Truth is like that. Happiness is like that. That's independent happiness. Now, whatever's going on, I'm okay. So if you listen to the conscience, you reach the lotus. If you don't listen to the conscience, then dabak, 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 the gada will come and whack you. Now at least understand, I made a mistake, I am suffering the consequences, let me correct myself. But even if we don't understand at that stage, then self-destruction, the mace, Vishnu's chakra comes and annihilates you. It's true of everything, right? In India, we were very particular about the protection of trees. Very particular. We carried our own, I don't know if you all remember, when we were young, we carried our own bags to the market. We put whatever we bought in that bag and we brought that bag home. That bag would be washed, again be ready for our next market trip. Sometimes that bag would not be washed, but that was about the level of indiscretion that took place. Now, you go hands-free to the market. Now that you're going hands-free to the market, what happens? They give you a bag. Then what happens? We really should take a picture. Next time I'm in Delhi, Momita, you're there now, right? You take a picture of that mountain that they've got over there. You've seen that mountain? They've got a mountain. There's a mountain there, Samta. I don't know if you've seen. There's a huge mountain or a big hillock. There are birds flying all over it. And so I was surprised when I passed it. So I asked the person who was driving me, what is this new mountain? I mean, how come? I don't remember a hillock being here. Mountain come here. I mean, I know Delhi has changed a lot, but this seems unusual. So I was told that that is the landfill. It's doesn't not a landfill. It is a skyfill at the moment. Incredible. Massive. You could be driving 10 minutes, it continues. Driving. So if you listen to yourself, you will take your telly and walk off to the market. And you don't listen, he will give you a bag and you will see that landfill. When you see that landfill, if you correct yourself, you say, okay, Baba, we have a mountain, let's not make it any bigger. If you correct yourself, say, okay, start taking the bag. Okay, eventually we can deal with the landfill. But if you don't do it even then, that landfill will come collapsing on us one day. That's what's happening with climate, right? We took care of the climate took care of us. We stopped taking care of the climate stopped taking care of us. Abhi to jaag jao. No, annihilate. I know people, I was very surprised. Recently, I met a person and I saw he had a Lexus. So I thought, wow, the guy is doing well. Fantastic. No, buying a Lexus is no joke. I mean, in India, abroad, of course, these cars are more popular, but here a Lexus is an unusually expensive car. I was very happy to see that he had a Lexus. Then somebody was telling me, this was telling me about that person. They bought a property, EMI. Lexus, EMI. How many things will you buy on EMI? And then when there's a financial collapse, oh, God is so mean to us. Strange are the ways of human beings. Health. Any example, you all can multiply examples. Samantha, what are you saying? In India, we used to be so eco-friendly, eating food on banana leaf and recycle. Now plastic, yes. Correct. In every part, because a culture was based on Vedanta. Now a small attempt is being made to build up a university. Then this knowledge has to spread. Then the culture will again come back. How many years all this will take? God alone knows. Well, we do what we can. Bharat, we take up the initial discomfort in certain areas, correct, and run away in other areas, correct. How do we explain this? Failure of discrimination. That's how we explain it. Failure of discrimination. If you don't have right discrimination, or in whichever area there is no right discrimination, which idiot will take up discomfort? It's the most natural thing to not take it up, right? So you have to have discrimination to understand what is after this step. If discrimination doesn't exist, how will you know what is after this step? So, Bharat, how do we explain this? Failure of discrimination. Okay, now let's see. Shall we continue? Any questions up to this point, or shall we continue? Mahesh, let's continue. The mechanism of sorrow. There is only one reason we get distressed: our thoughts. We should underline this, no? There is only one reason for distress, and that is our own thoughts. There is only one reason for distress, and that is our own thoughts. In class, it seems correct, but when the distress comes, then it never seems correct. Objects, people, circumstances don't disturb us directly. It is our thoughts that do. We believe we are stressed or agitated because of an event. But that is just not true. The mechanism of sorrow is quite different. Here is how the process works. Okay, so it's so, if people don't believe this, how can we blame them? Because it sounds wrong when you hear it. Oh, all the sorrow is because of my thoughts. So my mother-in-law, my husband, my child, my boss, my staff, all these people are very good, and I'm only very bad. That's not what it means. Objects, people, circumstances don't disturb us directly. And so let's understand, how does this mechanism work? We repeatedly think of a particular thing, and in doing so, we create a pattern of thoughts. How do you create that pattern? You thought and thought and thought along those lines, and so a certain thought process is created. As a consequence, we unconsciously form a strong desire. An indiscriminate thought flow develops into desperate likes and dislikes. An indiscriminate thought flow develops into desperate likes and dislikes. Think about anything, and suddenly you have likes and dislikes. Even in so-called good things, I like discipline. Now you created a thought flow for discipline. I like Hinduism. You created a thought flow for Hinduism. I like Ram or Krishna or something. You create a thought flow for that. Desperate likes and dislikes. Gratifying them feels like an emergency. When you want something, it begins to feel like there's an emergency over it. I have to have it, and I have to have it now. There's a pressure. Unfortunately, in Vedanta, they don't teach us acting. In the plays, you can see how beautifully they emote and show this. What is the desperation the person feels to get something? And you have to recollect how, now in class, everybody is very objective. They forget how they actually feel. Remember that when you wanted something, with what pressure that want was. An indiscriminate thought flow develops into desperate likes and dislikes. Gratifying them feels like an emergency. We want them fulfilled right now. When they're not fulfilled, we rage in fury or collapse in despair, in disappointment. So we're always between rage and despair, very angry or crushed. A young teenager has grown much taller than her classmates. She is heartbroken, believing that nobody would ever love her, her friends hate her, and she would never find a boy taller than her. She refuses to meet anybody and spends her days crying. Her parents can only watch helplessly. No amount of talking sense to her works. Even doctors have failed to get across. As an adult, you can see the absurdity of the situation. Let's say a 15-year-old girl, 14-year-old girl, very tall. I have to unfortunately tell you that this is a true story, as are most of everything here. The parents called me in to speak to her. It's nothing, you can't speak. Everybody can only watch helplessly at this. As an adult, you can see the absurdity of the situation. In fact, a height of 5'6" is not something to ruin anyone's life. In fact, in many situations, it would be advantageous. But who can tell a crying girl that? When we are so convinced that something really horrible has happened to us, who can convince us otherwise? Similarly, when we crave something, we can't eat, sleep, breathe, or live without it. There is so much sorrow, so much agitation. But in actuality, it has nothing to do with the object. When will we digest this idea? It has nothing to do with the object. It is important to realize that the object itself has no inherent value. The object has no inherent value. Like this girl, she's 5'6". Is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? In some situations, may not be a very good thing. In some other situation, maybe an excellent thing. The object in itself has no value. If our partner does not love us, if our spouse does not appreciate us, we are heartbroken. And yet, how does it matter if one person does not love or appreciate us? Millions in the world, nay, billions don't. Yet, that is not upsetting. Then why is this? Everybody can understand this, right? That there are billions of people in this world who don't care for me. Right? Are you upset by this? If you're not upset by these billions of people who don't care for you, what is being upset over the one person who doesn't? Then why this? Simply because we have put thought force behind it. We have thought of it incessantly till it became crucial and critical to the mind. Why this one person? This one person does not like me. Why is that breaking my heart? Is it because this person is genuinely so important? Who is he? Vashishta? Vishwamitra? Who is he? Rama? Krishna? Who is he? Why is he so important? Did he get to be so important? We have thought of it incessantly till it became crucial, critical, and sometimes even fatal. That is not there, but you understand that that is true. It has gained a value quite out of proportion with reality, an exaggerated significance, an overvaluation. As an experiment, pick up a random stone from the road. Think of it for days on end. Appreciate it, talk about it, put thought force behind it. If, after a month, someone tries to take it away, it will be extremely distressing, even heartbreaking. Why? Not because the stone has any value in itself. That how did that stone become so important?
Thought reinforcement.
Just thought of it and thought of it. And suddenly it's become so important. What are all the feelings it generates? It's all the pressure it generates. Now, the way we say it, it's so flat. It's very important to you. Well, fall flat. You have to remember a time when you craved for something. You longed for it, you wanted it, or you didn't have it and it broke your heart. You remember desperate emotions like that. Then stop and understand. Why is it so heartbreaking? Is it because the stone has any value in itself? No. It gained value just by our thinking of it. Samita, kids get attached to a rock or even a piece of paper and fight over it. Why kids, Samita? That's exactly what adults do. Who will be the president of this temple? Now we are going to fight over it. A piece of paper and a fight over a rock. Who will be president of the Rotary Club? A piece of paper and a bit of rock. This is what we're all doing all the time. Giving value to things that have no value. I have to be the Prime Minister of India. I have to be the Prime Minister of the United States. Not Prime Minister, what President of the United States. What are you excited about? In Vairagya Shatakam, he calls it सब झूठा है धरती झूठी है झूठा you understand झूठा झूठा is well, there's no English word for झूठा as far as I know. Anyone knows any English word for झूठा?
Sloppy seconds, I guess.
What?
Sloppy seconds.
Sloppy
I
seconds. Okay, seconds is okay. Jhuta. I mean, yes, that's pretty close, but it's not like we can use seconds. Okay, we can buy second-hand clothes or second-hand cars, or we use them. But jhuta has a negative
Not
impact.
true?
Huh?
Jhuta, like not true?
No, not jhuta.
Okay.
Jhuta, like in like
Somebody's view that
yeah, somebody
is leftover.
leftovers. Yeah, that's one of the things. But even leftovers, everybody eats and no. Leftovers in somebody's plate. You're eating his leftovers. He has pushed his plate away and now you are eating that. So there's some kind of
Going one
disgust with
step
it.
further, he's actually taken a bite and then put it in his plate. If it is in his plate, it may still not be juta. But you have taken a bite out of it. It's been contaminated by you, is what will make it juta.
Yes. I mean, there are various definitions of it. In southern India, if it's in your plate, it becomes juta. So whatever. So, wives were supposed to eat the juta food of their husbands. So all this sort of strange things would happen. Now, of course, there is a negative implication with the word juta. Juta. In the sense that it is what? Like it is something that somebody else has disposed of, and you are now taking that.
I mean they call it sloppy seconds. I think that's the expression that everyone uses.
Impure, not pure.
You can use as long as you get the idea, whatever it is.
It's also called pickings.
Sorry?
Pickings.
Yeah.
Pickings.
Yeah, but you can have pickings which are good pickings, but this is there's something disgusting. So in Vairagya Shatakam, the idea of taking other people's discarded things or other people's spoiled things, not even spoiled. What other people have eaten, you're now trying to eat in that. It says everything in the world is like the very air you breathe is a jhuta air. You realize that? The air you're breathing has already been breathed by somebody else. The plot of land which you have bought is the leftover of somebody. Every bit of it. You are enjoying what somebody has already enjoyed before you. So you are just enjoying the discarded enjoyments of others. So they tell you that so that you get a pratipaksha bhavana. You start looking at things differently. What are you wanting? Thousands of people have had this before you, and thousands of people will have it after you. What are you reveling for? You want to be president of Rotary Club? What's the big deal? How many people have been president before you, and how many will be after you? You want to be Miss World? How many people have been Miss World before you, and how many are going to be after you? How many people have got the Nobel Prize before you, and how many are going to get it after you? What are you talking about? What is the value in that? Prashant, if it is offered to God, then concept of Jhuta becomes Prashad. Irrelevant to the discussion, Prashant. Here, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to talk about the disgust, create the disgust for these things. Yes, and the solution, of course, is do everything as an act of worship. Then it becomes pure again. So,
Sorry, madam. Just impulsively put it.
sorry? Oh,
I just impulsively put it, sir.
yeah, that is the solution to the problem, but now we have to make that problem stand out. So, when you are enjoying any part of this world, you are enjoying the leftovers of someone else. So it's not, basically what it's trying to say, it's not worthy of giving this much value to. Right. So, what value does that rock have? Any piece of rock on the surface of this world, what value does it have? Only as much as thought as you have put into it. That rock can be a pebble on the ground. The same rock can be your idol. That rock can be your paperweight. That rock can be your Ishtadevata. It all depends on what is the thought you put on it, the thought force behind it. So if after a month someone takes it away, it will be heartbreaking. Why is it heartbreaking? Not because the stone has any value in itself. It gained value just by our thinking of it incessantly. The same principle operates with all things. Something seems attractive. Why? Our thoughts have gushed in that direction over time. The longer and steadier the thought flow, the more obsessive and compulsive we become about that object. At that point, any separation would be heartbreaking. Think of the pressure, the agitation, the anger, the longing, the craving. You can't bear separation from that thing, whatever that thing be. It could be tangible, it could be intangible. It could be a spouse, a child, a mother, a father, an idol, a beloved painting, a beloved sari, a beloved dress. I mean, anything. The longer and steadier the thought flow, the more obsessive and compulsive we become about that object. At that point, any separation would be heartbreaking. It would be akin to separating two lovebirds. The pain is always proportional to the thought force spent on the object. Now, when you understand this, the pain is always proportional to the thought force spent on the object. The moment you get this, what will you do? Do not waste your thought forces on
Lower objects.
it will be difficult to say what's lower. So do not waste your thought.
Discarded. discarded object.
That
Objects.
which don't take you to your goal.
Okay. Do not waste your thought force on objects.
Pertaining to the world.
Okay. Do not waste your thought force on objects which are
Impermanent.
Temporary.
impermanent, temporary. Very. When you are you understand, answering the principle, right? You think of something, that thing will become important. Okay? If it becomes important and that thing leaves you, what will happen?
Pain.
Pain. So minimum you should do before you start thinking of something is ensure that
You know that it is going to cause you sorrow if it goes away.
what is the minimum thing you should do before you think of an object?
Know that it's
It should be
impermanent.
relatively permanent.
Very good. At least you must know that it is relatively permanent. Otherwise, suppose you start getting attached to something that is going to leave you in 5 days, then expect in 5 days to be unhappy. It's just simple logic. It's simple cause and effect. If you think of an object, it will become important to you. If it becomes important to you and it leaves you, it will be heartbreaking. So therefore, any thought force, if intelligently applied, will be applied to
More permanent.
Relatively stable permanent things.
permanent objects.
So are we saying postpone your heartbreak?
Yes, postpone your heartbreak. Itna to karo. Relatively permanent. You want to not postpone it, Bharat.
I don't want heartbreak.
Okay. If you don't want a heartbreak at all, then you have to think of something that has no capacity of leaving you. And there is only one thing in the world like that, and that is
Self.
Yeah.
you don't want a heartbreak, there's only one way. Thoughts only on the self. That's the only way. You go back to first principles, and life is quite simple. Unless you don't agree with the first principle. Is there any part of this that you don't agree with? Do you agree, for instance, that if something leaves you, it will cause you pain? If you agree with this, then you have to say, okay, where is that pain coming from? That pain is coming from
Incessant thinking of
Thinking
object.
too much about it.
Do you agree that when you start thinking of something, it becomes important to you?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if it becomes important and then it leaves, it will cause pain. Agreeable? So what is the kind of thing we should think of? Because you can't say, okay, I'm not going to think of anything. That's not possible. So you have to think of something. So what should you think of?
What is more permanent?
What is more permanent? Less chance, right, that it will leave you and cause you pain.
But I can think of the impermanent things with the understanding that they're going to leave me. So even in that case, there won't be a problem, right?
You can try that experiment, but it's unlikely. I don't know. Indians love to bargain. I don't know what this is. You can think of it, Bharat, and see whether that gave you pain or not later on. Normally, we are fooling ourselves. When we want to do something, we tell ourselves, okay, it's impermanent, but I won't get very attached. That's not what happened. There was a girl, okay, and she used to hang out with a particular boy who was, I think, 10 years younger than her. And when the parents were not there, he would even come and stay in her house. And she was some sort of distant relation, so the father, and she was 10 years younger than the girl. So even the parents didn't seem to quite get what was happening. And then these two started fooling around, doing some hanky-panky between themselves. And she always told herself that I'm just fooling around with this guy. eventually. What you can't break up then. It's not that easy. It's not. People can fool themselves and say, "Nah, I'm just fooling around." No, you're not. Before you know it, you're married to a boy 10 years younger than you. Because now there's no alternative for you. I'm not against a girl marrying somebody 10 years. If you wish to marry somebody 10 years, 20 years, 30 years below you in age, fine, no view on that. I'm only talking about the fact that she thought that she was fooling around. Because you're a young kid, not fooling around. I'm just fooling around. That was how she used to say. She wasn't, and you can't. But in her thing, in her mind or in her justification, that's how she put it. I know it's impermanent. He was in the Navy, in the merchant navy. So he used to come and go. So, I mean, so many things, as you grow older in life, you begin to see how many examples of this whole belief. Oh, I can handle it. I can handle it. No, you can't. Keep quiet. So Bharat, yes, you can try your experiment, and having done so, you can write a book. My experiments with thinking of the impermanent, knowing that they are impermanent.
My experiments with fooling around.
Can write a book on that. But I hate to tell you and give the plot away, and will not come out to be what you think it is likely to be now. Not that it's a spoiler alert. Okay. Chalo, okay, ready? So far, so good, everyone. Now, where were we? It'd be akin to separating two lovebirds. The pain is always proportional to the thought force spent on the object. Thus, mothers are deeply attached to their offspring. 9 months of childbearing ensures it. Have you ever thought, why do these mothers care about these children so much? Have you ever thought, it's so natural? What natural? That's no answer, right? That's just begging the question. Why do mothers care about that child so much? It's designed like that. 9 months of childbearing ensures it. For those 9 months, every move that she made was with the child in mind. By the time the child is born, there is tremendous attachment. If before conception she had been thinking of having a child, the attachment would be proportionately more. Now, after delivery, she will spend a considerable amount of time tending to her child. Could there be any doubt then that this attachment would be so enduring? Momita. But we do not seem to easily discipline ourselves, no matter how much we dwell on its usefulness. Yes, true. Because how much you're dwelling on the usefulness of discipline has not made up yet for
The incessant thoughts that you were thinking about
earlier.
earlier. Yeah.
That balance, okay, so we have spent our lives thinking about something. Now we are trying to discipline ourselves. But these thoughts are up here and these thoughts are here. And though you say, I'm putting in so much effort, but these thoughts are still here. These thoughts have to come level and more before you will be disciplined. Simple cause and effect. Okay, Mamita?
Ma'am, I did not get this. Can you explain it with example?
No, but even if I'm trying to just simply lose weight, no matter how many times I expose myself to reading about it or something, even that simple discipline at the gross level is hard. So any kind of discipline seems no matter how much I dwell on it, how much I study about it. So it seems like I feel something first and then I find reasons for it. But I cannot deliberately create a feeling for something.
Of course you can. All the feelings that you have already got they have been created by you only. Otherwise, why do you feel like that? The rest of the world doesn't feel like that.
But they were unintentional. Now I'm intending to create a desire for something. Then I'm not able to. It's not
Because it
happening.
will take time, no? It's like you have dug a trench, right? Suppose there's a flow of water, okay? And you have dug a trench in the past. The water is flowing in the trench that you have dug. Then you start digging another trench. But the force of water is going in the earlier trench because that's so much deeper. So you have to make this one deeper for that kind of force to come here. Now a trickle is going over here saying, see, I did so much, only a trickle is going. It will have to come equal between the two trenches and more for the force to be redirected. A trickle will be there, but the force to be redirected.
It's a question of time and effort.
Which you know from the beginning. Only today you understood what is that time in itself. Is the conversion of that trench. Deep trenches take a very long time for us to go deep enough to remove it. And you will see things that were not so deep, you managed to get rid of. You've forgotten also they exist. But the deep ones expected to go on for years.
Okay, but then on the other hand, we say we should not just plunge into something completely. Like there is only so many hours of morning study that I should do, not more than that, because it will not be useful.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do I bridge that? I mean, how do I put in that kind of time and energy?
I didn't understand.
Like I'm saying, we don't, we are not supposed to plunge into sadhana without some sort of grounding, like put in only 1 hour of study, then reflection for accordingly that much, but no more than that, like have a bank for that. So then how do I put in that, whatever, like 50,000 hours or whatever it is that
You don't put it in the study directly like that. It depends on what. Let's go with your earlier example that you want to lose weight. I mean, not that you want to lose weight, it's just like an example. So somebody wants to lose weight, but when they are faced with a gulab jamun, they are happily eating the gulab jamun. So now morning study is 1 hour, wo to ho gaya. But every time that gulab jamun comes, every time that situation comes, that's when you're thinking about that, the opposite of that situation. Or you're trying to do something so that that situation doesn't. Suppose you meet somebody, okay, and in a very irritating person. Every time you meet that person, you lose your temper. Okay, so now you will think about why am I losing my temper? Or what can I do that I'm not associating with this person so much? I'll reduce my association so that, if I was spending half an hour and in 20 minutes, I find that I'm beginning to boil over with this person, then I'm going to restrict my interaction to 15 minutes with this person. So it's not like you're putting in thought like you're, sitting and studying about it. But each time that situation comes, you're countering it.
okay, it's like the open-eyed meditation.
I mean, you can't call it that because you're not talking about the self. You're talking about normal everyday things. Taruna, are you okay?
Yes, Janki. Yes, thank you.
Reshma. Time here stands for allowing that thought to settle and not thinking constantly about it. That would be a new obsession. Yes, correct. Time here, yeah, you're not constantly thinking about it. You can't think about it when that situation comes. So you're countering, dealing with it as it presents itself to you. Like if 20 minutes is your level with that person, you always plan 15 minutes with that person. Plan to be in that person's presence for 15 minutes. Or whatever, if you feel, if somebody drinks too much, but drinks in the club, then don't go to the club so often. You organize yourself so that not only no thoughts are being put in that direction, but other thoughts are being encouraged. Not like if you are drinking, for instance, then don't say, I won't drink, I won't drink, I won't drink. Don't do that. So you don't go to the club, but you go play badminton or something. Yes, Aditi.
Janki ji, in these situations, doesn't thinking about the goal make a difference in the thought process changing? And things like, as you said, what is more permanent versus what is more passing? And probably gratitude. Do you think these tools could help? For example, when I was thinking about the food bit, the gratitude towards the body that has been given to us. I mean, the our body which is working so seamlessly, beautifully, and then we are putting in stuff which, so things like more permanent. Do you think these are the tools that can help us move further?
Yeah, we are talking now about the principle involved. Anything that moves your thought away from it is good. But these, what you are talking about, except for the last example, were general backdrop things. These general backdrop things will help when it's not become too hard. I mean, they are a good cleanup, general cleanup, without having to go into individual things. But when an individual thing becomes very hard, you will have to deal with that too. Specifically, which was your last example, that okay, I won't eat too much because I'm grateful to my body and I want to take care of it. So that's a specific thing. Rather than a general gratitude or a general understanding of the goal, these will help in smaller things.
And every situation will have a different solution. It may not be.
Yeah, we won't have that many deep things. We'll have 2, 3, 4 deep things. Everything else will be dealt by the general sadhana.
Thank you.
Momita. Okay, responding to Reshma. But here we want to replace a counterproductive obsession with a new habit, and thinking about it, like in the example of the stones, should help us. Yes, thinking about the principle involved. Just getting a hold of the principle involved and understanding that is like a general sweeping. Not specific, but a general as you understand, I'm thinking about something futile. I'm going to get attached to it and find that this thing is the most important thing in my life. So, do I really want to go down that line? These are more like preventive. I don't want to go down this line, only think about something, get obsessed about it, think it's very important, go chasing for it, and waste of my time. I don't have that much time here. On Earth, we have about 100 years. It's not a lot of time, really. So why would we want to waste it? Anyway, you're going to sleep 8 hours. So imagine that. I don't know how many hours I've gone in sleeping, how many hours I've gone in television, how many hours I've gone in, I don't know, all sorts of useless things. All of childhood is gone. Old age will also be gone. So what your actual time where you do something useful So little. Why would we waste it?
So we're not dwelling on the thing itself. We should be dwelling on the principle. That is more useful. That is what is useful.
That is a general sweep up, right? But still, you will be left with 2, 3, 4 things. I mean, each one, usually 1 or 2 things, something that really deep will be bothering you for years. But you will deal with it.
Thank you.
Okay, Deepak Sethi, you had a question? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
No, I said there was something going in my mind which I wanted to share. Then I thought I'll hold back, but I'll go forward. This was triggered off by Momita's question, where she basically said that when there is indiscriminate, excessive thought, it leads to desperate likes and dislikes, right? And the spirit of a question was that if the same amount of intensity of thought is put in a positive way to change a bad habit, that does not happen. So why is it that one time the thought force works very, very clearly, and in the other place you don't see the effect because you think so much about it, but you still can't lose your weight? So I was thinking about that question, reflecting upon it as we were discussing. And I thought my reflection made me feel, going back to your earlier answer, that when it comes down to changing a bad habit, thought force will play a role, which is that the more the thought force, it will help. It's not that it's not helping, but you need something more in the recipe because the causality is slightly different. And you need that power of discrimination. If that discrimination has not really settled in, you can think 10 times over and, write 1,000 times, I must lose my weight, nothing will happen. So you need to supplement that effort with something else, which is that insight or the correct discrimination, which must come into play for the thought force to play its role of helping you to overcome it.
Yes, it is not another aspect, it's the same thing. Good discrimination is nothing but a thought. Good discrimination is a thought that makes you think of what you should rather than what you shouldn't. So it's not like you're adding another element. In terms of causality, you have to put in that much effort. Suppose you have a bank account and your bank account is $2 million in the red. Then you'll have to put $2,001 to come out of the red, right? So
Sure.
it's exactly like that at the mental level. There's no other causality involved. Unless you get, if your debt is only 500 rupees, then you put 501, you're out of debt. So the top level of nonsense habits we have created, they go very fast. In fact, many people feel that in the first 6 months, I made more progress than I made in the next 5 years. Actually, what happens is the top level is easy because there's hardly debts of 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 10 rupees. So you're putting little amounts and it's all getting clear. But you have a huge backlog of $500 million, that will take time. So it's the causality isn't different at all. It is the same basic root.
Yeah, the causality comes in the use of the word discriminate and indiscriminate. Because in the first case, when you went downhill, it was indiscriminate. So it could be any thought you keep on thinking about that person, that object, whatever it is, indiscriminately, and it happens. But in the second case, where you're trying to, in this case, correct your balance, etc., you must put that effort with a discriminate thought. So in that sense, it's not a different causality, but the element of discriminate thought comes in, because if you haven't got a discriminate thought and it's just a thought, which is saying, no, let me do it, etc., then it'll have only a limited impact. That was the point I was getting to, that there is a difference between indiscriminate thought in the first example of going downhill, but for coming uphill, it needs to be that effort must be on a discriminate thought. It can't just be on a pure thought, which is what you said, that we are assuming that in this case, the thought is a discriminate thought.
Yeah, of course. Otherwise, why would you change?
Yeah. But in the first case, when you're going downhill, it can be any thought, and the more you think, you will go downhill with that intensity if you've thought more about it.
Yes. Samantha, you had something?
Yes, so I think in second part of Momita's question, where she was asking an example with your bank, like you said, how it's 2 million in deficit and now you need to make it positive. I think what she was asking, but like in our morning studies, we only like in bank now, if we are only allowed to put 500 rupees a day, we cannot put 2 million altogether to bring the deficit up. So then when will we eventually, I think that's what she's saying, we're only allowed to put 1 hour of morning studies, no more than that. So when will we be able to make that trench deeper? And I think that's what I understood of her second part of the question.
So the answer to that was there are two kinds of things we're doing. There is one general thing, general cleanup, which is your morning study. And then there's a particular thing, which is what you're doing at the time of the situation. Okay, so when you're saying, okay, I drink because I go to the club, then you say, okay, then I will not go to the club. I will go for Gita lectures, whatever you think you're. So that particularity, making it particular, that you have now spent that 1 hour in a Gita lecture, for instance, or in playing bridge or whatever on earth you want to do. That is also your thoughts, right? You all are only taking it as the morning study. It's not only morning study.
That's where it will be Shravana, Manana, and Nidhi. So practicing in life, applying in life is also part. So you listen, you heard or read it, then you contemplated on it. Now it's time to do the third part where you actually go and apply in life, and that will make it deeper and deeper.
This is another type of thought. Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasana doesn't come in. This is an application. So at that point, you just apply. If you're studied in the morning, it will remind you of that. That's what it will do.
And that way we'll be able to grow faster and make that trench deeper faster and come to that level to make it positive.
If you think about making it faster, you will go slow. You just keep on doing the right thing. That's it. The right thing is today, just today, instead of going to the club and drinking, I will go and play bridge. Today. Tomorrow again, when it reminds you, today, instead of going and drinking in the club, I will go play badminton. So that's how you shift it. Now, I have to get over drinks immediately. You will be obsessed with drinks.
Thanks.
Okay, so that's it for today. Hari Om.